Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. Whether you are a sales professional, not in sales but interested in helping people solve problems, or a founder CEO who is looking to grow your business, you'll find practical tools, stories, and experience you can apply to your role. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and I'm here with Mike Simmons, the founder of Catalyst Sale. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Jody.
How is it going in Arizona?
It is awesome. We are finally, I know how much we like dating these podcast episodes, but we are finally getting out of the summer months, and it is gorgeous around here in the mornings and the evenings, and we'll continue to get better in the afternoon.
Yeah, well, we're having our highs. We're lucky if our highs are breaking 60 right now.
Yeah, see, and I'm excited that our lows are in the 60s in the evenings.
Well, Mike and I want to do something that goes along with an episode we did not long ago where I had questions about sales because I'm selling different types of services and products now. And I had questions for Mike because he is a sales expert, and it's not, even though I sell a lot, it's not my expertise area. So now, as a follow-up to that, Mike is, for the first time, really dealing with some marketing and branding, and he focuses on sales and not marketing and branding. And so we're going to turn it around, and Mike is going to ask me questions. And I will tell you up front, I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Mike just said, hey, let's turn this around, and I'm going to ask you. So I don't know where it's going, but I'm sure it's going to be good, right, Mike?
Usually is.
That's right. Well, what do you have?
So the first one one big one that I'm struggling with, and the first question I have is around how do you distinguish between what actually works in the market and what you like to see when it comes to building out landing pages?
Well, I guess they go together because what you like to see, you have to keep in your mind that to some degree, people like you will also like to see it. So, and we can talk deeper into that. But the other part is there are some really smart people that have studied results, a lot of results over and over, tested it in different ways to find out what works. So you can go a couple ways with it. You can say, I'm going to be different than other people and stand out that way. Or, okay, there are people that know what works and I'm going to follow their lead and get results that way. So if you do that, if you follow their lead, which is not a bad thing to do, you just also want to make it Mike Simmons and Catalyst Sale and not a straight copy. So all of that to say, there are people that have done a lot of tests to figure out what works, and the quickest way to get results is learn from mistakes, and it's even quicker when you learn from someone else's mistakes.
Yep. So one of the things that I'm noticing is I'm kind of working through the process of building these out, working with a couple of folks who are helping on building them out, is that these sales pages tend to be very long. There's a lot of scrolling. And one of the reasons I like Twitter is because I like the short engagement, the short, quick points. And I got to realize I'm not the person buying this. So that's something I've got to reconcile. But why is it that these long landing pages are working? What is it about them that has given people belief or has drawn people to building out more of these longer format landing pages?
Because they still work. It's not easy to make a decision to spend money, and sometimes you just want more information about it. And so a long sales page, I know we're in an age where shorter is better, simpler is better, but long pages like that, they go way back to direct mail days where you would get a 6-page letter in the mail selling you a product. And it worked then and it works now with some adjustments to set for the internet. And if someone is not interested, of course they're not going to read a 6-page sales letter, but they weren't going to read a half-page sales letter either. At least not read a half-page sales letter and take action. But if somebody's on the fence and they think this might be for me, more information is not a bad thing. And if you can set your page up in a way that gives them that information and keeps them scanning and scrolling down, because usually that's how it works. When you have a sales page and someone is interested enough to keep looking, they scan it and scroll it. And if that holds their attention, and I will tell you, they quite often scan and scroll quickly to the bottom to see what the price is.
Mhm.
And if that's still within reason, or even if it feels slightly out of reach, like, oh, that's a little more than I was going to pay, they'll still go back to the top and read your page. So when they scan and scroll, they're looking at headlines, they're looking at pictures, testimonials catch their eye, and then they get to the bottom and they see the price, and then they scroll back up and then they start reading more. And it's not, and that behavior, you just have to account for it. You can say, gosh, I wish it wasn't like that. There's a lot of things I could say that about when it comes to sales. And I'm sure this is one you can, because it's hard work making a long sales page. But
Yes, it is.
yeah, it is. But it works. If there are people that want more information, you want to give it to them. And it helps to have bullet points, and it helps to have headlines and pictures and testimonials and all these little elements that help people make a decision once they're attracted to your product, once they're interested enough to keep looking around. And if the price scares them away when they scroll down and look at it, then that's all right. It probably wasn't for them or right now anyway. So that happens though. I've even with sales pages, I'll see the product and I'll say, oh, okay, that looks good. That looks interesting. And they don't put the price on there unless you hit the buy now button, and then you'll see what the price is. I've even done it where I will go through a sales page, hit the buy now button so I can see what the price is. And then that way I'll say, okay, that's within reason. That's for this problem I want to solve. That's within the reason, the range of what I would pay. And then I'll go back and read the sales page. Unless it's something that maybe you and I have already talked about it. And I say, okay, I know as soon as Mike comes out with his course, I'm buying it. Well, then I don't even bother. I just go buy it. So
Right.
That's the other thing. And when you say, why do sales pages work? Long sales pages. Well, let's do it in a sales type format. And we'll continue to talk about your course, because I know that's what you're really working on right now. If we were going to sit down face to face and talk about your course, you wouldn't say, man, why won't Jody buy with a 2-minute conversation? When it comes to sales, you would understand, hey, I've got to talk to Jody for a while to get him interested so he knows what's here and how it can solve his problem. And a lot of the things you told me when we had the conversation about sales, they apply to landing pages and sales pages too, that you have to talk about benefits and not features. And it takes time and it takes words to do that.
So it seems like there's this arc where you're kind of drawing the person through each of these next steps, each of these gates, which again aligns with a lot of the conversations we've talked about relative to sales process and understanding customer decision-making process and journey. So it sounds like these things are all applied, the same concepts apply. And it's a matter of designing the landing page or designing the sales page so that it helps the customer move along the yellow brick road, so to speak, as they go through those gates. Is that fair?
Yeah, it certainly is. And that's exactly what you're doing if you have conversation with me. If we sat down at a coffee shop and you told me about it versus if I'm just reading your sales page, it's the same thing. You're just walking me through it, what it is, what I get from it, why I should be interested in it. It's all there in a sales page. And testimonials are good. I know I've mentioned that a couple times. They're good because, as I believe it was Seth Godin that said, nobody wants to be first, but everybody doesn't want to be left out. And so the testimonials help because if I read a testimonial, I say, oh, okay, well, Dan went through the course. It worked for him. I'm not a guinea pig. I'm not going first. Someone else has done it.
Right. So what are some common mistakes that people make as they start designing out or putting together sales pages?
Well, one of the mistakes that I know, it's really hard to blend copy and design. So you're doing really well if you can design with copy in mind or write copy with design in mind, because it can get hard to blend the two. And there's a lot of copywriters that you hire that will just give you the copy and say, there it is. And there's a lot of designers that you will have that will just say, hey, this is the design of the page, and they'll plug in the copy. So that's one, is the blend of design and copy. You have to be mindful of how that works and what what to do with headlines and bullet points and that sort of thing. And the other is call to action buttons, understanding where the best, most valuable real estate is on pages and put call to action there. And one of the best is top right corner. It's just a place people know to look for what's next. So that's where you want to put. I love including a picture that shows maybe what would you like a successful outcome, or what makes me in my mind think successful outcome. I like to include that picture at the top to start the whole thing off. I like that on websites and sales pages. If it's a long sales page, if it's a landing page for, let's say, a free report or a PDF download of some sort, maybe it's not necessary there. But if it's a sales page, that's what I really like, to have a picture that makes me feel good, feel like there's success, and it just sets everything up right. So I would say another mistake, and you've already touched on, is sometimes there's just not enough copy there. And the other is the offer. The offer just has to be pretty clear. Clarity is important in the whole thing. And in the offer, you really want clarity that people know, oh, this is what Mike Simmons is asking me to do. He's asking me to get the course, and this is what comes with it.
So when you say the offer, are you thinking like some kind of a discount or a special or something that happens, or is it the thing, like what's the offer?
The offer is what you are offering people. It doesn't have to be a discount. If you are going to do that, then yes, highlight that. But the offer is just very clear on this is what you're going to get. So as an example, let's say with the course, you get 4 coaching calls and you get added to a community, maybe a Facebook group, because I know that's popular with some courses.
Yep.
So the offer is just being very clear on what they're getting, and to make it sound, and it should sound, because it is, to make it sound enticing enough to say, I don't want to miss that. And the fact that it's 10 video lessons that are a total of 2 hours long, well, that's not really the offer.
Yep.
That's what they get, but that's not the offer though. And you know that from sales, that's the features versus benefit. So the offer is what the customer will be getting. And yeah, you go into how it's delivered, but overall people don't care that it's video lessons and all that. They care about what they are getting, which I guess is, you can also put that as the value is wrapped in there.
Yeah, it seems like there's the thing that's really important in any of these instances. Whenever somebody makes a purchase decision, so this blends the sales and marketing component, they make the purchase decision because they believe that something is going to be different. That's going to be some kind of an impact. There's going to be some kind of a change. Some kind of a transition is going to happen. I mean, that could be as simple as buying a candy bar at the gas station because you're hungry, or buying a house that has a large plot of land, or buying a service that gets integrated into your organization and improves productivity across the organization or decreases risk. There's some kind of financial impact, or there's a problem that exists and a solution that solves that problem. And at the end, there should be a high level of confidence that if I do this stuff, I'm no longer going to have the problem. And that becomes the offer. The offer is, these are the things that are going to make sure that you no longer have the problem. It's not necessarily the whole story around how we built the watch. It's kind of what time it is. Am I understanding it right?
Yeah, that's right. And then today, in fact, is the day I've been working on my sales page for my course, Podcast Magic. And part of what I get across there, it's not that you get, I think there's I don't know how many lessons there are. They're like 50 because they're short. And maybe it's 2 hours worth of content. But none of that really matters. What matters is that there's everything in there that basically, if you hired me to coach you, which you have done, Mike, into launching a podcast, this is what I would teach you. So you're learning from an expert that has been trusted by Disney executives, and probably even better by Mike Simmons, the founder of Catalyst Sale. You're working with somebody who's done over 1,000 episodes, has helped in one way or another, whether it's through coaching or direct hands-on, even as far as being the host and producer of a couple dozen shows. You're getting somebody that has done it that can say, hey, look, I know this is what you're worried about. This is what you're thinking, but this is what matters. This is what you need to do. And when it comes to equipment, no, don't worry about what you hear. This is all you really need. So that's really what you're getting. You're getting somebody to cut out the learning curve. You're getting somebody, even though it's videos, if there might be a coaching component to it, but even if it's only videos, you're getting somebody that basically is saying, hey, I know what you're thinking. Here's what we'll do about that. I know you're worried about this, but here's what we're going to do. Here is how you set up content. Here's how you actually launch the show. Now you have it launched. What do you do? So that really is the offer, that you get to learn from somebody that has done over 1,000 episodes and has worked with getting all these different shows launched. And that is the offer, not, hey, here's some videos that will show you how to create your content and launch your show.
Yep. So is there a specific cadence that goes to the story or the arc that happens when thinking about these landing pages? And you've talked about a couple of different sections. I've got these sections on the landing page. There's kind of the problem statement or the challenge that exists. There's story about, hey, I've been in your shoes and you've seen I can empathize. I can see these things. There's testimonials. All of these are in individual sections in the version that I'm putting together. Is there an order that should go in? And is there ever a time where it makes sense to mix those, integrate things like testimonials in each of the individual sections? Can you talk to that?
So what I did in the beginning when I was starting to launch things like this is I would find someone else who had done it and copy to some degree. When I say copy, I mean model more than copy, that I would model what they did. And then as you do it a little more, you can see kind of what works for you personally. So for example, let's just say as I'm working through this copy, I've got, basically here's a problem. Here's a solution, Podcast Magic. This is what it can do for you. More about what is it, what you'll get out of it. So when I'm saying what you'll get out of it, so you have to be careful not to say, hey, it's the 6 modules, something like that. You just want to show, okay, it's divided into modules, but this is what you're getting. You're not getting modules. You're getting how to create content, how to, because Mike, you've done a show for a long time now. In the beginning, and I know you remember this, in the beginning, it's really hard to come up with content. Not now, not that you're this deep into it. It's probably, gosh, how do I record enough shows to keep up with the content, with the ideas I have? But in the beginning, it's really tough. Those first 10, there's a reason why podcasts last 7 episodes, because it's really hard to create content past week 10. And so that's the type of thing you want to show people. And then you can talk about, look, how does it work? Maybe there you can get into some features. Like with your course, you might say, hey, you can watch it on your devices, so you don't have to worry about being stuck wherever. There's a coaching call, there's an online community. And so when you're showing features like that, you might talk about some benefits. You might even get into, hey, this isn't for you if, so that could be another section.
Yeah.
You definitely want to get in some testimonials. I really like those, adding those in. Maybe you can answer some common questions, the type of questions that you'll get, like, so your course, Mike, will this work for me if I'm not in a sales position? Which I know your course is directed, given the name, that's obvious. It's not for sales position. But what if I work in accounting and I don't deal directly with salespeople? So go ahead and answer some questions like that and just put them on there as questions like, hey, here are the frequently asked questions, and you can lay them out and answer them. And then go ahead.
It's kind of interesting. I mean, even though we call the course Demystify Sales for Non-Sales Professionals, helping people accelerate that path to learning, how to, or some of the skills and processes that you can apply, methods that you can apply to improve capability when it comes to sales. Many of the testimonials that I've received and positive feedback come from people who are your traditional experienced sales rep, where some of the tools are additive to what they're doing. It's helped them think differently about the way that they approach their role. So maybe that's a question I should add in the FAQs as I'm thinking through this is, what it says non-sales professional. What if I am a sales professional and I'm just looking to get better? Is this for me? And maybe I can provide some additional clarity around that.
Yeah, that's a perfect one, because maybe your reputation or somebody heard about you drew a sales professional to the course. And we know a lot of sales professionals listen to your podcast. So perhaps they heard you mention it here on the show and they say, oh, I'm going to check that out. And then they see the name and they say, is this really for me? Because I'm in sales. Well, go ahead and address that. Answer the questions people are going to ask before they have to ask them, because some people won't bother to ask. They'll just say, oh, that might not be for me.
It's amazing how often we miss the opportunity to ask a question.
Yes. Yes, we miss the opportunity to answer questions too, because we don't give people the opportunity to ask, or we haven't displayed things in a way where people, maybe they just leave before they are going to answer their question. Just like if it's a sales professional and they see your course and they say, all right, this looks cool and I really like Mike, but I'm not sure if this is for me. And if they leave without asking, then you've missed the opportunity to answer.
So will you create multiple sales pages for the different personas that you're targeting for a course like Podcast Magic?
For Podcast Magic, I'm going to. I haven't done much of that in the past, but Podcast Magic I will, because I see different opportunities that I have with Podcast Magic. For example, let's just say I do Podcast Magic, launch it just in general for people like you and me that are already interested in having a podcast, but just wanted a little help. But then I can see, I'm just going to pull an industry out of the hat. Let's just say travel agents.
Yep.
So then I say, well, gosh, if I were a travel agent, I would jump on doing a podcast, because people will get to know my personality. I'll get to highlight places I travel, give tips and insight. And then when people think of going to those places, they'll say, hey, Jody was there and he did an episode about that. I'm going to call him.
Yep.
So let's say, knowing that podcasting is a great opportunity for travel agents, I would say I'm going to do one just for travel agents. And perhaps I would even create a supplement to my course that is just for travel agents that I can add in. Then I would do a completely new sales page for travel agents. If I was going to target just them, completely new sales page that would probably have a lot of the same elements and a lot of the same copy even, but would be directed at travel agents. So they would know I'm talking to them and not just talking in general.
So, we've touched on a number of topics here, both the idea of how the sales page is organized and importance of being able to distinguish that difference between copy and design and bring those together in a way that makes sense. And unfortunately, I don't have a design-oriented bone in my body, so I end up outsourcing a lot of that stuff out to folks. Are there, as we wrap up, Jody, are there just a couple of key takeaways that you'd suggest that people think about when considering marketing and communicating their message and conveying information to those when they don't have a chance to sit right across the table from them?
I would keep in mind that to some degree it's similar. So if you sat down at a table with me, Mike, and were pitching to me the idea of joining you to learn about sales for non-sales professionals,
yep,
maybe we'd do so at a coffee shop and you would tell me all about it. Well, what if I'm reading your sales page, but I'm at a coffee shop? What's the difference? Why wouldn't you would want to get the same message across? So I would keep that in mind, that a sales page is still that same conversation.
The thing I struggle with then, Jody, around that is most of my conversations that I have with folks, initial conversations, are all about asking questions. They're, let's say we're having that conversation at the coffee table or at the coffee shop. And we're going through things and you're struggling with sales, one of the questions I would ask is, why do you think you're struggling with sales? What are the things that get you, what would you do differently? What have you tried? Like, these are all conversations that pieces of information that I'm gathering. So then I can deliver the information in the context of what's important to that person. So if I know after a short conversation that it's your first move into a sales role and you have a background as a park leader, you have a financial background, and you worked in a construction or at an organization that was focused on construction, you understand the value of planning in order to build the house in the time period that it needs to be built. You understand the impact of data and numbers from a financial perspective, and you understand the impact of experience from a park ranger perspective. So I would try to bring those together and say, look, that's what we're trying to do here. We're saying that there's a thing here that's important, where planning, which aligns to what you did in the construction space, data and analysis and reflection, which aligns with what you did in the financial space, and experience with which is what you did in the park space, all apply here. Now let's apply it in the context of this new business that you're working on. That's my struggle between sales and marketing. In sales, I can have those one-to-one conversations and draw that out. In marketing, I don't know how to do that.
But you have an advantage that you don't realize yet. And that is, you have had so many of those conversations that, yes, my background is perhaps unique because I was a financial analyst and a park ranger and a marketing director, all those different quirky elements that come together. But I promise you, there are similarities in me that you have heard other people say when it comes to transition, when it comes to sales. So you position your copy to hit those similarities, not that I was a park ranger. If you try to point the course towards, hey, yeah, you used to be a park ranger, and here's how that applies. Well, how many park rangers are going to be reading that? But if you
I know who would be the catalyst to help me get in front of those park rangers.
Yeah, exactly. But there are similarities in people that had one job and then another. People that have a background where they're feeling, oh man, my background doesn't really prepare me for sales. And you say, no, it really does. Well, you can have that same conversation without knowing I was a financial analyst, without knowing that I used to work in the warehouse, but now because of something I did, I was promoted up into the sales department. Yes, the details are different, but the feelings are the same. The questions are the same. And you can address those in the copy. And you have had the privilege of having that conversation with different questions and different details. You have had that conversation so many times that I know you can sit down and say, okay, this is the questions I would ask. These are the answers I typically hear, and then work them into the copy.
Got it. Awesome. Well, Jody, this has been a great discussion. I hope those of you who are listening out there really are able to take some key things away from the discussion and think differently about how you're applying these concepts in the work that you're doing and in the discussions that you have, whether you're on the sales side, the discussions you have with the folks on the marketing side of the table, or if you're in the sales or marketing side, the folks that you have on the operations side of the table. Because we continue to draw those correlations or connect the dots between the work that everybody does and the similarities that we have among that work, because we just all happen to be human beings. So Jody, I really appreciate the discussion. Where can people find out more about what you're working on and the Podcast Magic course specifically, and any other places that you'd want to point them to?
Well, everything points back to jodymayberry.com. So anything I'm doing, you can find there. The podcast, which is cleverly titled The Jody Mayberry Show, that's there. You can probably get to all my social media outlets from there and find out more about the course. And then if you are specifically interested in podcasting, you can go to creatingpodcastmagic.com, and that'll take you where you can find out more about the course and Podcast Magic. Mike, this was kind of fun to turn this around. It makes for a little bit of an awkward ending though, because now we have to transition back so I can wrap it up.
Well, I'm kind of wondering who reads the outro now.
I'm not sure.
Should we fight about it?
Yeah,
Jody, you're the professional.
we could flip a coin, I guess. Well, Mike, so you've wrapped us up. Now I'm going to wrap it up. This conversation, has it given you any new thoughts or insight into how you will approach marketing your course?
Well, there's a couple of things. One piece that it highlights is the importance of anticipation. And even though I'm not able to ask the question, I've heard the answers enough that I can highlight some patterns and get people to kind of think about where they fit, or have them nodding on the other side of the table or nodding on the other side of the computer screen saying, yeah, I've been there. That's something I'm working through. The other thing that it highlights for me is, in a lot of cases, I might just be overthinking this stuff. And what's the quote? Good plan violently executed today is a bad plan violently executed today is better than a good plan that's never executed, or something to that effect. I'll find the real quote and we'll put it in the notes. But
that was a good butchering of a quote by General Patton.
Yeah, see, look, so there I go. I butchered Patton, and we'll have the real quote in there. So those are a couple of really key takeaways for me as we're going through. The other thing is identifying that the design approach is still the same, not the design from a creative picture, font, all of that other kind of stuff, good look and feel, but the design from a journey. The process is still the same. So if I can identify those gates that I want people to go through as they're navigating through the sales page, I should be able to set that up in a way that helps them move along the journey rather than get caught in a cul-de-sac. So yeah, this has been really, really helpful for me.
Well, good. And one last piece that I will give you is for years, I have been capturing sales pages, landing pages, not to copy, but for inspiration, where when I'm working on one, I can go back and look at all of these that I've captured and say, that's it. That's the idea I needed. I love how they used headline here or a picture here, or how they unfolded their story. Now, when you're about ready to launch your course, it might be a little too late to start building a big file of landing pages and sales pages, but it's something to keep in mind. And you do the same as you were up and coming sales professional, Mike, as you would see what other people would do and you'd say, now I get it. I can incorporate that into what I'm also doing. So it's the same when it comes to landing pages, sales pages, or marketing in general. Just pay attention to what other people do and don't copy, but use it as inspiration and modeling. All right, awesome. Mike, I'm gonna wrap us there. So if you have any questions about the conversation, feel free to reach out to either one of us. I'm at jodymayberry.com, as we talked about earlier, and you can reach Mike at catalystsale.com, and we'd love to have you join in on the discussion. Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you for listening to the Catalyst Sale Podcast.